Thank you. Well, thanks for being here. I don't know how newsworthy this event is, but y'all can determine that. I'll tell you that from my perspective, I kind of figured as long as we've been together on this journey, it at least owed you our way of thinking about the end game. And of course, the end game, I guess the beginning of the end ended on last Friday when the final proposal revisions were due from both contractors. I think you probably all know that we beat that deadline by a number of hours. But just by way of flavor, Murphy does still live and reside healthily in the center of the United States. We started out with a great plan for delivery of our final proposal revision. We had commercial airline reservations, we had a dedicated charter aircraft, and we had a van. And by the time we got there about 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, an airplane had broken. Thursday afternoon. An airplane had broken. Another airplane had tried to leave without the proper documentation, and our employee in Dayton who was going to meet the airplane fell ill and passed out 3 times before we got there. So now, what that is testimony to prudence and risk management, because indeed we got it there well ahead of time. But God, you know, you just kind of think about the years and dollars we spent on this thing, and kind of have it come down to something like that. Just to kind of open the discussion, I will say that we did in fact revise our proposal and our price. We did submit a very good proposal last July, and of course we've responded to the customer as we clarified our offer over the 7 months since that time. But when it came time to submit the final proposal revision, which, while we had the option to make changes across the proposal, our sense was that we had, in fact, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment, we had zeroed in on the configuration. And what our final proposal revision was about was mostly what the Air Force wanted, and that's about improved and updated pricing. I'll tell you, what I intend to do today here is talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about why we think we can win this. And I'll show you the methodology. I'm going to do that. It's not a briefing, but I've got a couple of charts to kind of refer to. And then I want to talk about what the additional value that our offer would provide to the Air Force and the nation. But as I said, this proposal is not just about price. It's about satisfying a bunch of criteria which were very well established at the outset of this competition. What I mean is, we had a draft RFP, then we, EADS, had the opportunity a year ago to decide whether we wanted to participate as prime. And when we made those judgments, we understood what the ground rules were. They were fixed, they were clearly established, and we understood and accepted them. I must say that I don't believe there have been any ambiguities about that. The Pentagon's told us what to expect, and it's up to us and our competitor to satisfy them. Now, I'm not here to say that we've wanted to change those. What I have observed, however, is that our competitor continually wants to introduce changes into the evaluation criteria. It's a little bit like the ninth inning of a baseball game where you've played by the rules, you appear to be in jeopardy of losing, so you decide to try to introduce new rules. And if they don't put together the reasons that the game may be canceled and start all over again. So my take is the rules are clear. The rules are clear in terms of the requirements, in terms of the pricing methodologies, and in terms of the evaluation criteria. So our perspective is we're in this game, a game well defined, a game we intend to win. So let's turn to that piece of it. Let's put the first chart up, Guy, and gosh, nothing new there. That's taken right out of the request for proposal that the Air Force issued.
For those on the phone, this is a chart of the RFP methodology that shows you know, all the boxes that indicate the 372 basic requirements, and then down through total proposed price, IFARA, fuel burn, and MILCON adjustments to a final total evaluated price. Sorry.
And I was going to explain to you what was in this chart.
Oh. And he was nice enough to let me actually finish that. Sorry.
Okay, this is actually taken from the RFP, and it shows the logic and the evaluation criteria that were established by the Air Force and presented to everyone. First of all, in the draft RFP, now more than almost a year and a half ago. If you look at that, you all know it's price for the development and then production of 179 aircraft, a total proposed price, which then gets modified by a number of factors, which are then de-escalated into a total evaluated price in current year dollars, and then a decision made based on the results. One comment I would make is that as we finish this, somebody must know the answer already, because this is a very mathematical equation. But that's, you know, just for those of us who would like to have an idea when the announcement's going to be made, and I surely don't in this case. So if you look at this and go to the next slide, Guy, clearly one of the factors we've been most focused on, and most focused in the FBR, final proposal submittal, or revision, excuse me, that's what we say it's going to cost. And those costs are spread over time. And I put this up on the chart as an EADS opportunity. Why is it an opportunity for us? Well, we did put in a very competitive proposal. But we've been through 7 months of discussions with the Air Force, and our clarity and their refinement of our understanding and our refinement to them of our proposal build to a case that says, hey, we could in fact reduce our price from the initial bid. Now, rather than just say that, I'd tell you all that from a logic perspective seems to make sense. First of all, you all know from the last competition when we were teamed with Northrop Grumman, we were judged to have a lower price. Since that time, our organization has matured somewhat, and we're now prime, and we don't have a prime who is above us. And while we were pleased to work with Northrop Grumman, it's clear that they make money on the work that they do and the work that they supervise. Additionally, it's important to recognize in this competitive environment that we got an airplane that not only is in full rate production, but has a rate of production that we've announced recently is going up. So if you're producing 8 to 10 aircraft a month, anyone who understands manufacturing, engineering, and manufacturing operations knows that greater throughput leads to lower price. The last two bullets there, I think, are critically important. And as you look on the screen there next to Scott, you see an airplane flying and refueling with more than 1,500 contacts. What that says is that we know what our aircraft is. It also says, I believe, and this is TBD because we don't exactly know what Boeing's offering will be, but almost certainly our development program costs will be less. And that works to our advantage because those are near year dollars. And if you understand the methodology of their evaluation in the EMD program, the price evaluation is a simple one. They take our development price and take it to ceiling, which is 1.25. So whatever the difference is in our EMD costs compared to theirs gets accentuated by a factor of 1.25, helping us, I believe, in the price domain. So we submitted what we think is a very competitive price proposal, and that gives us a good sense, at least a hopeful sense, that it's the foundation for a winning bid. The second, that in fact is what you call factor one in the evaluation. Go on, Guy. There are then 3 additional factors that are considered, and I'll work my way through them quickly. You all know that as for the surrogates of life cycle costs, the government chose military construction and fuel use, fuel burn assessment, as the basis for doing so. Our aircraft is larger, so what I'd say here is that in the modernization of the 11 bases where this aircraft is going, either of the two aircraft to be deployed, there is a fair amount of military construction that applies to both airplanes. But we would judge that the cost for EADS North America's offer would be somewhat more just because it's a larger aircraft. Bigger hangar doors, slightly bigger hangars, that type of thing, but not a key determinant of an outcome. The next item is a fuel burn adjustment and assessment, excuse me. It's an adjustment and an assessment that then is applied as an adjustment. And the Air Force basically gave us a set of flight profiles against which we had to measure and guarantee what the fuel burn would be. Clearly an advantage to a smaller tanker. But what I can't quite understand in the context of recent discussions about and advertisements is how when you multiply the difference, which we generally know because we compete with the 767 in the marketplace on fuel burn, how that equates to much of a difference, more than about $1 billion in total evaluated price. Since Milcon and Fura are the two determinants of life cycle cost, I find it hard to comprehend how our competitor says that there'll be a $30 to $40 billion savings by operating the 767 as a tanker over the KC-45. Indeed, by our math, that looks like it could be as large as $1 billion to $1.5 billion. I'd check the methodology if I were you all, because I suspect they're talking about levels of operation at commercial basis, which really doesn't hang together very well either, simply because our airplane gets bought preferentially by people who want to fly payloads a long distance over the 767. Hence our remaining 500 plus orders on the A330 and our increase in the production rate. The final factor here is IFARA. And I was tempted to bring the spider chart to persuade you once again that the more, which with which our offering was described as a winning offering last time, in fact, cuts across a number of domains. What I'd rather say about that, though, is that this is a metric. It is the metric. It was the clearly described metric that was established at the outset of this competition. And the methodology for doing it has been quite clear. Now, I'll talk a moment about how there might be some additional benefits beyond that, but the bottom line is, as you recall last time, we had about a 6% advantage in the last competition. I actually believe that the advantage using the CMARPS model, may in fact be greater than that. And of course, as you all know, since we are not measuring for example, fuel burn on the basis of unit cost per unit delivered, this is the one place where the EADS North America KC-45 offering has the opportunity to substantially speak to the advantages of a larger and more modern aircraft and refueling system. So the bottom line, while some people want to think about throwing this metric out or giving it less weight, we think it was a part of the ground rules to begin with. And so when you add all of these things up and you look through that evaluation and how those criteria and factors are added together, we feel very good about our opportunity.